What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm reviewing a sneaker that almost looks like a custom, the Air Jordan 1 Defiant Couture. A little while back, we started to see leaked images of this sneaker, and when I first saw it, I actually kind of thought it was a custom shoe. And the main reason I thought that is because it just doesn't have that sort of finished Air Jordan vibe that most Air Jordans have. It really looks like something that was not an afterthought, but something that was kind of thrown together. And before Jordan Brand officially announced this sneaker, everyone thought that it had something to do with that sort of band theme, like the red X on the back of the Air Jordan 1s. But then Jordan Brand came out and said that it was inspired by luxury cars, which really feels like a stretch. And to be honest, the more I looked at it, the less I liked it because I just didn't feel like it was that good of a concept. Now that I've actually got the sneakers in hand, however, I do have to say that they look better in person than I thought. But I am starting to notice a bunch of little factory flaws that are really bugging me. Not only that, but at $175, this sneaker is $15 more expensive than a standard Air Jordan 1. So the question becomes, is this shoe worth the extra money? So as I mentioned before, the theme behind this sneaker is a luxury car. So in order to give it that sort of luxury feel, Jordan Brand used what they're calling, or what seems to be, a much more premium leather. So the entire upper of the shoe is covered in this surprisingly stiff, semi-gloss black leather. It honestly almost has a patent leather feel to it, which I've got to say, I really didn't expect. And because it's a much stiffer leather, the upper of the sneaker creases very, very badly. A friend of mine, Phil, who runs the consignment store Common Ground in Philly, got a pair of these a day early and started to wear them, and within 20 minutes they creased like this. And in fact, that picture kind of went viral on Twitter, and it really scared a lot of people because if they crease that badly from just 20 minutes worth of wear, how are they going to look after a day's worth of wear or after a month? Now, to be fair, that could just be an isolated incident. Maybe he was crouching down to grab a box or something like that, but I mean, even still, that's a pretty bad crease for just 20 minutes worth of wear. And as an Air Jordan 1 fan, I'm all for creases. I love the way they look after they've been worn. But if the crease in a toe box looks more like cardboard than leather, that's a problem. Continuing back on the shoe, you've got these flat black laces, and I checked the box and I checked all around the shoe, and it doesn't look like there's any other pairs of laces that come with this sneaker, so if you don't like these black laces, you're just gonna have to buy another set. Underneath the laces, you've got more of that semi-gloss leather that you find all around the upper of the sneaker, covering the entire tongue. And then at the top of the tongue, you've actually got my favorite detail on the entire shoe, and that's this super premium feeling black leather Nike Air tag. Inside the shoe, it feels like they've used black satin or a very similar material on the sock liner, which I actually kind of dig. The insole of the shoe comes in red with Nike Air printed on the heel in black. As for sizing, the Air Jordan 1 Defiant Couture does seem to fit just like every other Air Jordan 1. And for me, that's true to size. For you, it might be something different. As I always suggest, if you have a chance to try the shoe on first before you buy it, make sure to do that to make sure you're getting the right size for you. Continuing back on the midfoot of the shoe, you get to the defining feature, this bright red stripe. The red stripe actually wraps all the way around the shoe till you get to the other side of the midfoot, and I've got to say, on the lateral side, this stripe reminds me a lot of a Yeezy Boost 350 V2. Obviously, the design intent is different on this stripe than it is on the Yeezy, but they do have a very similar visual effect. I don't personally love the way this stripe looks. I feel like it was just kind of slapped onto the side of the sneaker, and I think there were a lot of different ways they could have incorporated the sort of high-end car feel that would have actually been more successful than this. But my main gripe about this design is just how poorly the stripe was actually painted on the side of the shoe. Now, whenever there's a detail like this on a shoe that covers multiple different layers of leather or different materials, it's usually painted on by hand. Shoe companies don't spend $500,000 to buy a very expensive robot to paint a red stripe on a very limited number of shoes. That's just not how it's done. This sort of detail is literally done by hand. They mask it off using tape and then they paint it on with a brush. And because it's done by hand, there's a lot of little inconsistencies that you can find on both shoes. For example, around the different leather panels, there are areas that you can see actually weren't painted or weren't covered in the same amount of paint as other parts of the shoe. So like some of these gaps just weren't painted. Like if you look on the back, right on top of this sort of piece of leather right here, it's a slightly darker shade of red, and that's because it just didn't get enough coats of red. In the crevices, you can also see where paint sort of bunched up and bubbled, and that's all because it was done by hand. There's not really much you can do about that. But my main gripe is just how messy these edges are. And the reason this is such a big deal for me is because I used to do custom sneakers. I used to do stuff like this all the time. And no, it's not easy to do. but it's not that hard. These edges look so rough, and you can tell where they peeled the tape off and some of the paint started to bleed a little bit, and where they actually touched up areas with black paint. It just doesn't look that good. I hate to say it, but this shoe honestly feels like a custom. And believe me, that really does suck to say because I love Air Jordan 1s. There's not many colorways that I don't like, but this is one of those colorways. I think if they had positioned the story behind this red stripe a little bit differently, like if it had actually been the Band X and these edges were supposed to be messy because it was supposed to look like it was spray painted or something like that, that would have been a lot more successful. But the idea that this is supposed to be similar to a luxury car and that it's supposed to be really high quality, it just doesn't hold up. Continuing back on the sneaker, you've got more black leather panels all the way around the heel of the shoe. And of course, you've got your Wings logo debossed in black. Then moving down on the sneaker, you've got this sail or cream colored midsole and outsole. The Air Jordan 1 Defiant Couture kind of feels like a weak concept executed relatively poorly. Don't get me wrong, I love Air Jordan 1s, and from a distance, this sneaker looks good, as long as it's not creased. But if you're going for that whole sort of exotic car or luxury car story, it just doesn't work because the quality just isn't there. If this sneaker had been less expensive, or maybe if they had used their standard Air Jordan 1 leather, or if the story behind the sneaker was the band theme instead of this whole luxury car theme, I think any one of those things could have made this a better shoe. But as it is, I don't think it's worth it. But that pretty much wraps up the video for today. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on the Air Jordan 1 Defiant Couture and whether it's a shoe that you consider picking up, or maybe it's a shoe that you already grabbed. So make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe down below if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.